This is Evelyn Lopez with Sustainability in Your Ear, the EARTH911.com podcast. On today's show, we are going to be exploring how to upgrade the U.S. power grid for the future. We're going to find out about IKEA's plans for increasing reusability. We have some great information on how to recycle stealth electronics and some tips for dealing with allergies. And as always, we'll be answering questions from Earthlings. That's you, people who ask us questions. So welcome to Sustainability in Your Ear for the week of June 18th, 2018. Welcome to our participants today. Mitch Radcliffe, our EARTH911 publisher. Where are you coming to us from today, Mitch?
Well, I'm in my home office in Lakewood, Washington. It's another cloudy day in Washington.
It is kind of a cloudy spring day. And we have writers Trey Granger and Sarah Lozanova also over the phone. Trey, where are you today?
I am in my home office in Tempe, Arizona.
Excellent. Sunny and clear?
Very sunny, very warm.
Okay. And Sarah Lozanova, where are you coming to us from today?
I'm joining you from Mid-Coast, Maine.
Great. What's it like in Maine today?
It was a beautiful sunny day.
Oh, that's so nice. Excellent. Well, let's get started. First up in our news segment is reinventing the U.S. power grid. Trey, you want to tell us about that?
Yeah. So for those who aren't aware, the U.S. has been undertaking a project for about 10 years now, trying to get us more energy independent. There was actually legislation passed in 2007 called the Energy Independence and Security Act, which basically the premise was to create what's called a smart grid. So there's a lot of great information in the story that I wrote for the website, but just to summarize, the grid that we are currently on is over 100 years old. It was actually established when the U.S. first started getting electricity and built throughout the years in various regions with the technology we had back then, which is obviously very different than what we have today. I mean, there weren't even televisions back then, let alone smart appliances and what have you. So basically what has happened is we're using so much electricity these days that the grid needs to be upgraded and modified to allow for our more unique energy experience. So the smart grid, the main goal of it is to have what's called two-way transmission. So in the past, all the electricity was going one way. So it went from a power plant through the power lines into consumer homes. But now we have ways where consumers can actually provide their own power via things like solar panels and other renewable energy. The smart grid allows for energy to go back in the system from consumers and then be incorporated into the power grid so everyone else can utilize that electricity as well. The other big key feature is the smart meters, which allows consumers to actually identify their own energy use outside of just the monthly bill they get. They can see it in real time, and they can optimize the times when they're using the most electricity. So this actually gets helped out by things like smart appliances, washing machines, refrigerators, appliances where you can actually increase and decrease the power load based on the time of day and when you might or might not be home. And the last thing that the smart grid does is it distributes the power and reroutes electricity a lot better during outages. So one of the issues we've had, especially we saw it in Puerto Rico, is when the current grid has difficulty when there's bad weather, there's outages that occur. This allows for rerouting so you can prevent some of those outages.
So how much is this going to cost, Trey?
Yeah, so the U.S. has already spent about $30 billion into the smart grid. And they're estimating that if we were just to replace our existing grid, it would be $4.8 trillion. And so in the 10 years, we've spent up $30 billion, and we're expected to run through about 2030. So probably looking at another $30 billion into it as well. Boulder, Colorado actually was the first city in the U.S. that provided its own smart grid. And that was almost 10 years ago. The reason I mentioned that is because they were kind of a case study for us as far as how this would work. They definitely saw some significant cost overruns in their project. It was almost $40 million in overruns that is kind of just a heads up for us as we start to implement it elsewhere and what we should and should not do.
What were some of the things that happened in Boulder that would be a should not do?
They were having people have smart meters. They didn't even know they had smart meters on their house. And so people were getting different bills than what they expected. And there was just a lot of confusion because they didn't do the proper education of telling all the customers, here's what's going to be happening, here's what you should expect.
Yeah.
So Sarah, you live in a solar community and are familiar with what a microgrid would look like. How do you see microgrids integrating with the larger grid, and particularly with your local experience?
Yeah, we've actually talked as a community about the possibility of disconnecting from the grid and becoming our own microgrid, which would require us to have battery storage. So currently we don't have battery storage, so about 2/3 of the homes in my neighborhood have solar, but only a couple of the homes have energy storage. So we pull from the grid at night and in cloudy weather, and then we're feeding energy to the grid. So we do have kind of a two-way exchange with the grid instead of just taking power from it.
That must be kind of nice to see the meter running backwards.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great to see credits on my electric bill. Typically from about April to October, I'm banking credits. And then in the winter, I use more power because I have electric heat.
So overall, do you think that how much do you think as a percentage it reduces your dependence on the grid in terms of money?
Well, basically, my home is net zero. So my solar system produces all the power that my home needs throughout the course of the year.
Wow.
That would be nice.
It's a combination of energy efficiency and solar energy, because like I said, I have electric heat, but the home is also built to the passive house standard, so it's very energy efficient.
Right, so your floors are warming the house? Is that the way that your passive works?
Passive house is a German standard for energy efficiency. And so the home is virtually airtight. It has a solar orientation, and it has a lot of insulation. So between those factors, it uses about 90% less energy for heating and cooling than a typical home.
That's great. Now, Trey, one of the things about a smart grid, and it's a concern people raise, is whether or not with digital technology that becomes susceptible to cyber attack. Is that something that we should be concerned about as we think about that?
Absolutely. A lot of these smart appliances, they actually connect via your wireless router because they have the capability to adjust their power usage. They need to have the internet access. There have been attacks in the past. Actually, earlier this year, it's suspected that Russia actually alleged cyber attacks on our power grid. The best suggestion I can give people if they have concerns about this is change your router password. I think a lot of us, they just buy that router and we just use the password that's already on the machine. Yep. It's really easy to go into the router and actually change the password. Makes it much more secure for you to avoid those hacks.
In fact, right now, there was a router hack attack about a week and a half ago that required you to not only shut down your router in order to get the hacker out, but to change the password before you can put it back on the internet. And so this is an increasingly relevant issue for people to think about.
Absolutely.
What about, does anyone have any thoughts on recent headlines about the administration mandating that more power from the grid will need to come specifically from coal and nuclear power plants? I'm not sure if that is something that's actually going to come about or would work, but I have read about it recently.
Well, it's a quaint idea that we should power with coal. I think London in the 1870s is exactly where we want to be going as a country.
That's right, that pea soup fog.
But it is unprecedented, except during the Korean War, for a president to say that we should be using a particular type of fuel. And President Trump is using a security rule in order to favor an industry, which he clearly has close ties to. Mm-hmm. But, like many things that come out of Washington these days, whether it actually ends up impacting our lives is it seems more like theater than policy.
Yeah, I agree. Well, let's take on our second story. Our second story today is about IKEA. Mitch, tell us what IKEA is doing.
Well, IKEA really made a big announcement in terms of importance to retail around the world, because they are a leader amongst retailers around the world. And they're going to be doing a number of things, but the most tangible one, and we'll be talking a little more about this topic later, is they're getting rid of paper plates and straws by 2020, so that when you go to buy your meatballs at IKEA at the end of your shopping trip, they will not hand you a plastic fork and a drink with a plastic straw. They're moving to utensils that can be recycled and that are earth friendly. But what they said overall is really, I think, more important. They said that regardless of what happens with the Paris Climate Accords, they're going to stick to their goals under the Paris Accords. And that means that they're making a lot of investments in order to reduce their overall carbon footprint. They want to introduce a lot of things we talk about here on the show: recirculation, people sharing things so that they don't just throw them away, and also that IKEA will be increasingly responsible for taking back materials. It's called producer responsibility, and they have laws in Europe about this, so that they're capturing the materials they put out at the end of their lives and bringing them back and reusing them. So a lot of really forward-looking thinking on the part of IKEA. And so this is what the CEO, Torbjorn Loof, said. Our ambition is to become people and planet positive by 2030 while growing IKEA's business. They have an opportunity to inspire and enable more than 1 billion people to live better lives within the limits of the planet. And if every retailer embraced that kind of thinking, I think we would be much better off. In addition to getting rid of the single-use products, they're also going to stop using, they're going to stop selling single-use products. So you won't be able to buy a plastic fork at IKEA anymore after, or at least a non-recyclable one after 2025. And they're also working to be climate positive by reducing their carbon load across all the products in the store by 70%.
That's excellent.
IKEA has also been a leader in solar energy as well. They've installed tens of thousands of solar panels on their buildings throughout the world. And they're also now selling solar panels with battery storage in the UK as well.
Yeah, part of the announcement, in fact, was that they're going to make those solar kits more affordable, and they're also going to be working towards more carbon neutral home products by 2025.
That's fantastic news.
I just wish we were seeing more of it. Although, even in the wake of the IKEA announcement, several other retailers announced that they would be taking similar steps. So again, we're already seeing IKEA's leadership, and they have been a leader on responsibility, environmental responsibility in particular, for many years.
Now, I have to admit, news like this makes me, much more likely to shop there. I had given up on them because they're just, it's kind of a vast shopping experience. But I would definitely go to IKEA with this change in their policies. I really appreciate it.
Well, after my Swedish fish addiction, I've always but this is great news. I think we're seeing the kinds of decisions that we want to see as consumers, and it's a good idea to go frequent the store and tell them while you're there that this is the reason that you're there. Let's reinforce this. Let's get the story out.
I think so too. That's excellent. Well, our third story today is about recycling stealth electronics. Mitch, what can you tell us about these stealth electronics?
Well, stealth electronics are devices you have around the house that look like they're off, but aren't. They're actually working all the time. And so you have anything with an LED display, basically, is probably on all the time. And these fall into the category of stealth electronics. That could be your alarm clock. It could be a coffee maker. It could be any number of things that you've got around the house that you just don't think of as an electronics. But because they're electronics, they're also relatively valuable to recycle. The materials in them are useful. And as a result, 25 states and the District of Columbia have passed laws requiring that electronics be recycled. And in fact, here in Washington State, we have one of those laws. Staples is also getting into the business as well by offering recycling for things like drip coffee makers and the other kinds of office products that they serve or that they sell around the store. So a lot of people are becoming aware of the fact that, we used to buy these things and toss them in the trash, but now because there's a microchip in it and possibly gold, steel, plastic, and batteries with value, we're going to start recycling these more frequently. Another one of the big stealth recycling products, stealth electronics products is handheld devices. Now, new cell phones, they're pretty easy to recycle, and you recognize that. But if you've bought a game system, for instance, like a Wii, those are also very recyclable, and a lot of people have started reselling those on eBay and other websites. But they tend to end up in the trash at the end of life, and that's not where they belong. They should be recycled. So what do you want to do with those things? You can consider going to the store that sold them to you. Best Buy has a take-back program, so does Staples, as we were talking before. But if you can't find somebody locally, there are private resources like Total Reclaim in Washington State that will, as they say, accept anything with a battery or cord. And you can also, of course, use the EARTH911 database to find a recycler near you.
I think that's a really good tip. Here in Tacoma, we have a green PC business that sells you used electronics, which is great, and they'll take anything, which is very handy. Our Environmental Services Recycling Center also has a place where you can bring small appliances and small electronics. So more places are aware of and providing recycling resources, and I think it's really the consumers that need to realize that these things just can't be easily disposed of. They need to be taken care of properly.
While we're on the topic of electronics, one thing I wanted to throw in too is to keep in mind the impact of electronics throughout their life cycle. So, for example, a lot of electronics continuously pull electricity from your outlet, even when not in use. Like a few years ago, I got a meter called a kilowatt meter, and you can plug in different electronics into it to find out how much energy they're using. And I discovered that my DVD player, my television, my printer, quite a few of my electronics were actually continuously pulling power even when they were turned off. And that's because they weren't, in fact, completely off. They were in a standby mode. So a lot of things that have remotes or can kind of spring into action on demand are actually continuously pulling power. So I just mention that because if you occasionally use a printer, you can keep it unplugged or you can keep it on a power strip in the off position.
Yeah, that's even modern LCD TVs or LED TVs are they're in a standby mode so that they can, anything that works as an instant on device is essentially probably pulling that power vampirically the rest of the day. The other thing to keep in mind, we can save money on electricity by using these things differently, but the amount of waste that's produced, it's about 9.4 tons of e-waste every year. And that waste has a lot of harmful metals like lead, mercury, arsenic, cadmium, selenium, and chromium in them that can be bad for people and the environment near where they're exposed. So again, taking this to a recycling program might be a hassle, but it's going to be worth the effort, not only for yourself and your family and their health, but for the health of the planet.
Yeah. Sarah, I had a question for you on that. The kilowatt meter, was there anything that was sucking more power than you expected? So like if you could boil it down and say, if there's one thing you do, check this device because it's just taken so much energy all day long.
For me, it seemed like it was my entertainment center, the stereo, the television, the DVD player. They all were drawing. It wasn't a huge amount individually, but it was around 10 watts, 8 to 12 watts each. But if you add those together and then maybe a printer that's sucking another 10, that's as much as having a 40-watt bulb burning all the time.
That's interesting.
That's more power than they needed to get Apollo 11 back.
Yeah.
I feel obliged to chip in here, too, in that wall warts or external power supplies draw a lot of power as well. So people will typically unplug whatever device from the wall wart, but not the wall wart from the wall, and they draw power constantly.
So like a PC dock, for instance.
Yeah, or your phone charger.
Oh, yeah.
That, by the way, folks, was Doug Mackey, our producer.
I just had to chime in. I may do that again. You never know.
Always welcome.
I suffer from allergies, and we are into allergy season. Wheezing and moaning going on at my house. So what do you do about those sinus pressures and headaches? We asked, actually, we have an existing EARTH911 TV segment that we released again this week about how to make your own DIY sinus allergy and relief products. And it's a simple thing to watch and understand because for the most part, we're talking about getting a small glass jar, some cotton balls, and essential oils such as peppermint oil, oregano oil, tea tree oil, and lemon oil. Putting the balls into the cotton balls into the jar, dripping the oils on the jar on the cotton balls, closing the jar, and then using it to inhale whenever you need a relief from your allergies. And that was just one of several that we had in that program. So we urge you to check it out. What other solutions do folks on the call use themselves? I'd be curious.
Well, I thought this was a pretty interesting segment. So again, it's on our earth911.com website, and it's about sinus and allergy relief. And there were several good suggestions. And one, as Mitch suggested, the cotton balls in a jar soaked with various amounts of essential oils. Apparently, you use it as kind of a aroma therapy type, something that you would sniff to sort of loosen the congestion and clear your sinuses. Although I'm telling you, I am not going to walk around with a jar, sniffing a jar of cotton balls. But, I'm just not going to do it. But I might. What I was thinking was, I'll bet if I cut this down a bit, it's 15 drops of peppermint oil, 5 drops of oregano, 5 drops of tea tree oil, and 5 drops of lemon oil. If I like that scent combination, what I might do is reduce it by 5, since they're all, divisible by 5, and take some of those cotton balls, maybe put them under in my pillowcase, because I think I have a problem at night breathing, and I get very congested. So that might be very helpful. I'd certainly be willing to try that. Another suggestion that came out of that EARTH911 TV episode is a bath soak. And so this would be both enjoyable, a nice hot bath, and then also help clear your sinuses. And the suggestion is that you take a glass jar with a lid and mix up in 1 cup of Epsom salt, a half a cup baking soda, and then some more essential oils. In this case, 10 drops of peppermint oil, 10 drops of eucalyptus oil, and they suggest a drop of green food coloring. Personally, I wouldn't bother with that. Put all these in the glass jar and shake it up well, and then just add 1 to 2 tablespoons to a warm bath whenever you want to have that kind of I think I would call it a sinus balm bath.
I have a patch of stinging nettles growing in my yard, and some of my neighbors have been harvesting it and having great luck with seasonal allergies as well. They make a tea out of the stinging nettles, and it works as an antihistamine and an anti-inflammatory.
So do you take the nettles off, or do you use the whole plant?
Yeah, usually what I do is I'll harvest it from the top, and you want to harvest it before it's gone to seed, which it might already be too late for some folks. April and May are generally the best months, but you take off the top, maybe 2 or 4 leaves, just kind of breaking it at the stem, and you want to harvest it with gloves, as the name implies. The plant does sting, and then you just pour boiling water on top of it.
How does it taste?
I think it tastes pretty good. It doesn't have a real strong flavor. It's maybe similar to the flavor of spinach.
So a little bit grassy, maybe a little herby.
And it doesn't sting.
And it doesn't sting when you drink it as a tea?
It doesn't sting when you drink it. It's just if your hands come in contact with the raw plant that it stings.
That sounds very
There's little
good.
hairs on the underside and on the stem, on the underside of the leaves and on the stem that sting.
There's another recipe on the allergy relief program for a balm or a rub that gives you some relief. And to me, it sounds like it's sort of a natural version of Vicks Vapor Rub. It says, take an empty jar and then in a glass bowl, combine a half a cup of coconut oil, 1 tablespoon of beeswax, and then, again, essential oils, 20 drops of lavender, 10 drops of tea tree oil, 8 drops of eucalyptus, and 5 drops of peppermint oil. And you melt the beeswax in the glass bowl for 2 to 3 minutes. Then you add the coconut oil, melt it, stir it well, and put the oils in and put it into an empty, either a lip balm tube, a glass jar, or a container. And I would say, if you have the choice, use a glass jar every time, because not only are they easily recyclable, but if your material is hot when you pour it, it works much better in a glass jar than in a lip balm tube. I think one thing that I would suggest, I didn't ever have allergies growing up, so I've really come to get to know them as an adult, especially living here in Washington in the springtime. Something in the air, I think it's some of the tree pollen, really makes my eyes get itchy. And so before bed and then in the morning, I have an eye wash that I use. And I every time I do this, I think of the irony that, when you're a kid, you just would do anything to not have your eyes washed out or any of these things. You would not use a neti pot and, have hot water poured up your nose. I mean, you would never do these things. And suddenly as an adult, you're sort of actively embracing the idea of, flushing your eyes out. But you can make an eye wash with distilled water. It's pretty simple. You boil distilled water for 20 minutes and cool it. And it's basically a cup of water plus 1 teaspoon of salt, and then you can keep that in a container. So if you find you're using a lot of this, it's worth it to make some of your own rather than buying plastic containers of it every month or so.
I think the thing that makes your eyes burn is Scotch broom. That's always
Scotch broom's bad, but I get it from tree pollen too. Yeah. So all of the beauty of nature taking its revenge
in
on
your
you.
eyes.
In your eyes. Yep. Any other thoughts on allergies? No? All right, then. Well,
all sneezed out.
Yes, yeah. I will say
probiotics are also a way to help boost the immune system to decrease allergic, seasonal allergies. So taking probiotics or eating fermented foods, such as fermented sauerkraut or kombucha, things like that can help sort of build up the immune system over time. I don't think, just one bowl of sauerkraut is going to make a huge difference, but sort of as a way to progress towards reduced allergy symptoms.
Yeah, that's interesting. The idea that we could also modify our diets to support our immune system is I think we're only beginning to understand that. So that's going to be a curious thing to watch over the next few years.
Yeah, that's a really good suggestion. So up next, we would normally have our interview segment. We don't have an interview this week. But Mitch, why don't you tell us about interviews we have to look forward to in the next couple of weeks?
Well, we've got a couple of really interesting ones. One, we're going to be talking with Feed America, which is the largest nonprofit food bank in the United States. Particularly, we're going to be talking about food waste and how to reduce it. If you are mourning the passing of Anthony Bourdain near the end of his life, that became a major issue for him, and he was really doing some great work on campaigning against food waste. So I'm looking forward to talking to Feed America. And we're also talking to Terry Lehman, who's the president, founder, and CEO of True Green Paper. Terry is a leading woman entrepreneur in the United States, and True Green has patented a compostable hot cup. In other words, a paper cup that you can compost even though it holds hot coffee or other hot drinks. And she's also just introduced a bamboo straw. So they've got a couple of great new products that are actually sustainable and good for the world. So we'll be talking about them.
That sounds great. Both really good topics. Up next, we have our reader questions, starting first with Kelvin in Colorado, who asks us, our mattress is worn out, and I'd like to recycle it instead of sending it to the landfill. Do recyclers take mattresses?
Well, this is one I think Trey can jump in on too as well. But mattresses they're big and bulky. They're hard to move around, but there is a lot of material in them that can be recycled. So the steel that might be in the springs, the wood that's used in the mattress frame, and increasingly with these new generation gels and other kinds of plastic materials that form fit to your body are recoverable. And so it is possible to have your mattress recycled. The four best options in order of ease and cost are to go ahead and buy a new one and ask the store to haul your old one away. But make sure when you do that they're going to recycle it rather than throw it away. And that's what you have to confirm with them before you do so. If you find that your local recycling program offers a bulk waste collection, that is, they'll come pick up a big load, you can have your mattress and other stuff around the house taken away. But again, make sure they're going to take it for recycling. Goodwill, the Salvation Army, St. Vincent de Paul all accept mattresses. They tend to look for the quality of the condition of the mattress a bit, but they will also come and pick it up and haul it away for you for recycling or recirculation to somebody who would buy it in the stores. And finally, if you're not able to find anybody, you can call a local hauling company, your trash company, and they will come out and do these pickups for a fee. And a good place to look for those, in addition to the EARTH911 search database, which lists all this stuff, are search engines like Yelp, where people often record what companies will recycle. And a couple of things we also wanted to add to this. If you're looking for a new mattress, there are good green options these days. Consumer Reports actually ranked a green mattress the highest among all mattresses in 2018. It's called the Avocado Green mattress. And another one that has stood out when we were doing our research for this question is Saatva. That's Saatva. It makes a sustainable mattress. So they use recycled materials in the mattress, and they use a plant fiber-based material to cover the mattress. So it's a very sustainable manufacturing process. Trey, what about you've looked at this problem over the years? What other ideas do you have about mattresses?
Salvation Army actually has set up a recycling center. It's mostly for the Western United States, but Colorado, they might go out that far. There actually is a center, I believe it's in Berkeley, California, that will accept from a lot of different areas. So that's definitely one to look into.
So would you ship it there, or would they pick it up locally and then aggregate?
They pick it up. I don't know if they'll go all the way to Colorado, but they go to most of the Western U.S.
Okay.
That's definitely one to check out for the west side of the U.S. As far as Mitch mentioned, there's a lot of valuable material in there. It's just a matter of finding somebody who's going to endure the expense of hauling it away for you.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So the next question comes from Lavanya on Facebook, and she asks, she said, I found out my city does not recycle straws. Is there a place that I can post it to, that is, mail it for recycling like we do with our crayons? What are your thoughts on that, Evelyn?
Well, I have to say, I feel your pain with this one, Lavanya. Straws are very difficult. Plastic straws are wonderfully convenient, especially if you spend a lot of time in your car driving and you're stopping and getting drinks on the way. But they really are not recyclable. At one point in time, straws were made more of paper. They've been made of plastic, most recently, and they're very lightweight plastic. And I'm looking at some material that we have here, and Trey, you may be able to add into this too. I always think of you have a deep knowledge of plastics, but looks like the straws are generally often made of polypropylene, which is known as the plastic number 5, which is itself highly recyclable. But the problem is that the straws are just so lightweight that they don't really work with any of the recycling systems. They don't have the bulk of bottle caps, toothbrushes, and plastic utensils.
Yeah, and the one thing I think people don't realize about straws is we talk a lot about the plastic garbage, the island in the Great Pacific. Certain plastics will float and certain will sink, and polypropylene actually floats, which means if you're on the beach, definitely leave those straws at home, because if they go into the water, they're going to float and be a big concern for marine debris.
It's incredible that we actually use 1.6 straws per person in the United States every day.
Wow, that's a lot of straws.
You think about how much of that stuff is ending up in the Pacific and Atlantic gyres. It's startling. And I think, we just saw a really strong response on Facebook to a straw graphic that we shared. And it got shared and commented on. We had 500,000 hits on that thing.
Wow.
In 3 or 4 days. And I think that the recent photo of a sea lion, it was a walrus, with a straw stuck in its nose. It had been jammed in there, and of course, walruses don't have hands, so they couldn't get it out. It was a sad image, and I think it galvanized people's awareness in a way that very few images have recently.
Yeah, what we're recommending is that it's really not very practical to recycle these straws. Your best bet is to try to reduce your use of them entirely. One option would be, especially if you do have sensitive teeth or if you have a disability, there are some really, really great reusable straws. I have a couple of metal straws that I keep in the car with me that you can take with you. That is a really good option. Another option is to see if you can have your drinks put into a different type of cup. What the very, very tall cups can be difficult to lift up and drink, especially if you have some arm or wrist problems. But there's no reason why drinks can't be put into a coffee mug or something else. We use tall drink mugs more for aesthetics than for need.
This might be a good topic for our new Earthling forum on EARTH911. Mm-hmm. So we introduced the community forum there so that people can post their own ideas and then get feedback. What if we went ahead and asked, because I struggle with this every time I go to everywhere, Starbucks, to Burger King, any of the places that I might stop under normal circumstances to get something to eat, and they're always handing me straws.
Right.
And plastic lids on that have an X for the straw. What about a paper lid that had a kind of a feeder cup, like a tippy cup, that was a replacement for the straw and the plastic lid? And that could be made of paper.
Yeah, I think that would be a great idea.
So what we should do is start a campaign in the Earthling forum. I'll set it up.
I think that's a great idea. Another thing is, one of the things that frustrates me is I have started getting in the habit of asking for no straw, because if it comes in a paper wrapper, that's fine. I can just leave it for the next person or return it to the restaurant. But so often drink a calmer water, particularly with an open straw stuck in it already. And so I've been trying to say very, affirmatively up front, could I get a glass of water but no straw? And I think that, as more and more people do that, we may see less straws in use too.
Well, it's a great idea. It helps create a cultural shift as well. Like with bags now, a lot of times I've noticed cashiers will ask if I just have 1 or 2 items if I want a bag, whereas I feel like 10 years ago they would just sort of go on autopilot and put 1 or 2 items in a bag. I do the same thing as well with when I go out to eat with my children, because many times they'll give my kids water in disposable plastic cups with a straw stuck in there, which seems highly wasteful.
Yeah.
A cultural change around the acceptability of straws, although they have been around since 3000 BC, so they were invented in Samaria, of all places. Although they were probably papyrus. That's the kind of thing that we need to start thinking about doing, is asking other people to think twice before they follow these habits that are 1,000 or 3,000 years old. Yeah. Actually, that'd be 5,000 years ago.
5,000. Yeah, I actually was very dubious. Our city passed a bag ordinance, so there are no plastic shopping bags in use. And if you don't bring your own bag, a merchant can sell you a paper bag for 5 cents. And I was a little dubious about whether that was going to make much of a difference. But, it really has. It has really changed people's behavior. And so I think, changing the culture on straws could be effective too.
So, a nickel a straw would be the right way to go.
Yeah, that would end straw usage immediately.
That would certainly cut it down.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, anything else to share this week? No,
come check out the Earthling forums, though.
Okay, definitely check out the forums, and they're very interesting. That's on our website, EARTH911.com. If you have any feedback or questions or thoughts, you can send that to us by email also, feedback@earth911.com. Stay tuned on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spreaker, and you can find our podcasts at our website. We will see you again next week.
Take care, everybody.
Okay, bye, everyone.
Bye.